It was supposed to be a normal visit to the animal sanctuary. Just a little girl in a wheelchair hoping to see some cats. But no one there was prepared for what was about to happen. Imagine this. A tiny girl facing the most feared cat in the sanctuary. What happens next will leave you speechless. Welcome to Hope Build Your Dream. As she rolled closer to the enclosures, most of the cats meowed softly, eager for attention. Then her eyes stopped on one cage, the one everyone avoided. Inside was a retired feral cat, so aggressive he was marked too dangerous to adopt. He had attacked everyone who tried to approach. People said he was untrainable. He lunged at the bars, hissing wildly. The staff warned the little girl not to go near that cage. He's dangerous, they said, but she didn't listen. Instead of fear, the little girl smiled. She wheeled closer, heart pounding, and whispered, "Hi, hero. It's okay. I'm here." Then something unbelievable happened. The hissing stopped. Everyone froze as the cat slowly stepped forward and did something no one could explain. The cat lowered his head and began to cry. What happened next shocked everyone. But hold on. If this story is touching your heart already, hit that like button and subscribe to Hope Build Your Dream for more stories that restore your faith in humanity. The rain had stopped only minutes ago, leaving behind a faint shimmer on the cracked pavement outside the old brick animal sanctuary. The sign above the gate was faded, its letters barely visible through layers of peeling paint. Haven's Hope Sanctuary. Inside, the air smelled faintly of disinfectant and damp straw. A few cats meowed restlessly, their voices echoing through narrow corridors lined with metal enclosures. For the volunteers who worked there, this place was more than a sanctuary. It was a battlefield between hope and heartbreak. Every day they fought to save abandoned cats, injured strays, and forgotten souls left behind by a world that had moved on. But lately, even hope was running out. Donations had slowed, the roof leaked whenever it rained, and the staff struggled to care for the growing number of animals that arrived at their door. Among all the cats, there was one enclosure everyone avoided, the last one at the far end of the corridor. The nameplate read simply, Rex. He was a massive Maine Coon cat with sharp eyes and a deep scar running across his muzzle. His hisses were low and constant, like a storm that never ended. The sanctuary workers whispered stories about him. A retired feral cat, a survivor once, a danger now. When new volunteers came in, they were always warned. Stay away from that enclosure. He's unpredictable. Even feeding him required caution. Meals were slid in through a narrow gap in the bars. No one dared to reach their hand inside. But beneath that fierce exterior, there was something else. A haunting sadness. Rex didn't hiss all the time. Sometimes late at night when the lights were out and the sanctuary quiet, he would sit in the corner of his enclosure, staring at nothing, letting out a soft, mournful meow. The sanctuary director, a kind woman named Sarah, often paused outside his enclosure. "You were a survivor once," she whispered. "I wish someone could remind you of that." What no one knew then was that someone was on her way. And when she arrived, everything in that sanctuary and in Rex's broken heart would change forever. 7-year-old Lily Parker lived in a small house at the edge of town, surrounded by fields of tall grass that swayed gently in the wind. From her bedroom window, she could see the world. Children riding their bikes, cats chasing after toys, and sunlight glittering on the pond nearby. But for Lily, that world felt miles away. 2 years ago, a car accident had changed everything. She had been in the back seat singing along to her favorite song when the tires screeched and the world spun. The next thing she remembered was waking up in a hospital bed, unable to move her legs. The doctors called it a miracle that she survived. But Lily didn't feel like a miracle. She felt trapped in a body that wouldn't let her run again. Her wheelchair became her new companion, always there, always silent. Yet, despite her struggles, Lily had something rare, a heart that still believed in kindness. She spent her days painting, reading, and most of all, watching cat videos on her tablet. She loved them, the curious eyes, the swishing tails, the way they could make broken hearts whole again. Her mother, Emma, noticed how Lily's face lit up every time a cat appeared on screen. Maybe one day, she said softly, we'll find you a friend like that. Lily's smile widened. A cat doesn't care if I can walk or not. Right, Mom? They just care if you love them. That sentence stayed with Emma. So, one weekend after months of therapy and restless nights, she decided to take Lily somewhere special, the local animal sanctuary. Maybe, just maybe, meeting a real cat would bring her daughter the joy she had lost. The morning of the visit, Lily was up early, her excitement bubbling like sunlight. She wore her favorite pink shirt and denim overalls, her blonde hair tied neatly in a ponytail. She clutched a small plush cat in her lap, her lucky charm. As Emma gently wheeled her toward the car, Lily asked in a small, hopeful voice, "Do you think they'll like me, Mom?" Emma smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "I think they'll love you." Neither of them could have known that the cat waiting for Lily at that sanctuary wasn't just any cat. He was a broken survivor with a past full of scars and a heart that had forgotten how to love. Until now. The bell above the sanctuary door jingled softly as Emma pushed Lily's wheelchair inside. A wave of sound greeted them. Meowing, purring, the rustle of paws against metal enclosures. The air smelled faintly of sawdust and soap. Lily's eyes widened as she looked around, her small hands gripping the sides of her chair. "There are so many of them," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. A young volunteer named Mia stepped forward with a bright smile. "Welcome to Haven's Hope," she said warmly. "You must be Lily." Lily nodded shyly, her blue eyes flicking toward the rows of enclosures. "I've never been to a place like this before," she said. Mia crouched to her level. "Every one of these cats has a story," she said softly. "Some happy, some sad, but they're all waiting for a friend." Emma smiled gratefully, and the two women began walking down the corridor. Lily rolled alongside them, her gaze darting from enclosure to enclosure. Some cats meowed playfully, others swished their tails at the sight of her. She laughed when a small kitten pawed her fingers through the bars. For the first time in a long while, her laughter filled the room like sunlight. But then the mood shifted. At the far end of the hall, the meowing grew deeper, harsher. A loud hiss echoed through the sanctuary, sending a shiver down Lily's spine. The volunteers exchanged uneasy glances. Mia stopped walking. "That's Rex," she said quietly. Lily turned her wheelchair slightly, peering down the dim corridor. "What's wrong with him?" she asked. "He's different," Mia replied carefully. "He used to be a feral cat. Very tough, but after something happened, he became unpredictable. We keep him separate so no one gets hurt." Emma's brow furrowed. "Unpredictable." Mia nodded. "He scratched a few handlers. We feed him through the gate now. Poor thing doesn't trust anyone anymore." But instead of fear, Lily's face softened. "Maybe he's just scared," she said quietly. "Sometimes when people hurt, they get angry too." Mia hesitated, then smiled faintly. "You sound like you understand him." Lily looked toward Rex's shadowy enclosure. The hissing had stopped. For a moment, it was as if the cat inside was listening to her. "Maybe I do," Lily whispered. That was the moment everything began. The moment one broken soul noticed another and something invisible sparked between them. Something no one in that sanctuary could have ever predicted. At the farthest corner of Haven's Hope Sanctuary stood an enclosure that seemed to belong to another world. Unlike the others, it was wrapped with reinforced wire and double locks. A small red tag on the latch read in bold letters, "Caution, do not approach." Inside, the once proud feral cat named Rex lay curled in the shadows, his breathing steady but guarded. His fur, though still thick and fluffy, had lost its shine. His eyes, once sharp and alert, now carried a mixture of suspicion and sorrow. Every sound made him tense. Every movement drew a low hiss from his throat. Rex had not always been this way. Just a year earlier, he had been a street survivor trained to fight, protect, and endure. His rescuer, Officer Mark Jensen, had called him the bravest companion I ever had. Together, they had navigated dangers, evaded threats, and survived odds. Rex had once been a hero, the kind that children dreamed about. But one night changed everything. During a rescue operation gone wrong, Rex had been sent into a dark alley where a frightened little girl was trapped. Chaos erupted. In the panic, Rex was injured and the little girl didn't survive. That night, Mark carried his companion out in his arms. Both of them wounded, both broken in different ways. When Rex recovered physically, the rescuers tried to bring him back, but he wasn't the same. He flinched at sudden sounds, scratched at handlers he once trusted, and refused to follow commands. The light in his eyes was gone. Finally, with a heavy heart, Mark signed the papers for Rex's retirement, whispering only one thing before he left.
I'm sorry, Bobby.
Since then, Rex had lived behind those metal bars, growing quieter, more distant with each passing day. Volunteers tried to approach, hoping kindness could heal him. But he lunged every time someone came too close. His hisses were not of rage, but of pain. The kind of pain no one could see. The sanctuary staff kept hoping for a miracle, but deep down they feared none would come. Cats like Rex, those who had seen too much, rarely found second chances. That morning, as Lily's soft laughter drifted through the corridor, Rex's ears twitched. He lifted his head slightly, his gaze turning toward the sound. It wasn't the sharp tone of a command or the rough voice of an adult. It was something pure, something gentle. For the first time in months, Rex stood up, his nose pressing against the cold bars of his enclosure. The volunteers exchanged uneasy glances. But no one could have known that this small reaction was the first flicker of something extraordinary. Because for a heart once taught to survive, it only took one innocent voice to remember how to feel. The air inside the sanctuary hallway felt different that morning, heavy, expectant. Lily rolled her wheelchair slowly down the narrow path between the enclosures, her small hands gripping the wheels as her mother followed behind. The meowing around them softened as if the other cats sensed something unusual about her presence. At the end of the corridor behind the metal bars, Rex stood still. His golden eyes tracked her every move. The faint hum of the sanctuary lights buzzed overhead, but for Lily, the world had gone quiet. It was just her and him. Mia hesitated near the door. "Lily, sweetie," she said softly, "maybe we should stop here." She glanced nervously at Rex, who hadn't moved, but whose tail gave a single slow flick. "He's not like the others. He doesn't like strangers." Lily tilted her head. "He's not angry," she whispered. "He's just sad." Emma placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Let's listen to the nice lady, honey. We don't want to scare him." But Lily didn't seem scared. If anything, she looked calmer than anyone in the room. Her gaze met Rex's through the bars, and for a heartbeat, something invisible passed between them. A shared ache neither of them could explain. Rex's ears twitched. He didn't hiss. He didn't growl. He simply stood there watching her with cautious curiosity. The volunteers froze, exchanging silent glances. This was new. Usually, Rex would lunge or snarl when anyone came close. Lily lifted her small hand and waved. "Hi there," she said softly. "You're really big." Her voice was light, the kind that sounded like sunshine on water. Rex's tail flicked again, this time twice. His eyes, once hard and distant, softened ever so slightly. Mia took a small step back, whispering, "I don't believe this." Lily smiled, inching her wheelchair a little closer. "It's okay," she said. "I know you won't hurt me." Rex lowered his head, ears angled forward. A low sound escaped his throat. Not a hiss, but a deep, uncertain meow. It echoed through the hall like a memory waking up after years of silence. For the first time, the feared feral cat didn't look dangerous. He looked lost. And for the first time since her accident, Lily didn't feel weak. She felt brave. Because somewhere inside, she knew this cat wasn't meant to scare her. He was meant to find her. The volunteers held their breath as Lily's wheelchair creaked closer to the enclosure. The air was thick with tension. Every sound, the hum of the lights, the faint dripping of a leaky pipe, seemed to fade beneath the slow rhythm of Rex's breathing. His body was still, but his eyes followed Lily's every movement with the sharp focus of a survivor remembering old instincts. "Lily, that's close enough," Emma said carefully, her voice trembling slightly. Sweetheart, please don't. But Lily didn't stop. She looked at Rex and smiled softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Hey boy, she said. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. The cat tilted his head. His ears twitched as if he recognized the calm in her tone. A sound so different from shouts or threats, so full of something he hadn't heard in a long time. Trust. Rex stepped forward one paw at a time, his claws clicking gently against the floor. The volunteers stiffened, ready to pull Lily's chair back, but she raised her hand slightly, stopping them. Let him, she said. Her hand trembled as she extended it toward the metal bars. The enclosure separated them, but her courage seemed to bridge the gap. Rex's breath grew heavier. He sniffed cautiously, the scent of innocence reaching him through the iron barrier. His muscles tensed, a flash of his old instincts. But then his gaze met Lily's. Those wide, tearful blue eyes, the same eyes he had seen once before, the night everything went wrong. And just like that, the tension broke. Rex let out a low, aching meow and pressed his forehead against the bars. Gasps echoed around the room. Mia covered her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. He's never done that, she whispered. Never. Lily giggled softly, her voice trembling with joy. See, Mom, he's not mean. He just needed someone to say hi. Emma stood frozen, unable to believe what she was seeing. This was the same cat they'd been warned about, the one no one could get near. And yet, here he was calm, gentle, his tail giving the faintest swish. Lily placed her palm against the cold steel. Rex pushed his nose closer until their touch met through the bars. For a few seconds, it was as if time itself had stopped. The broken child and the broken cat, finding something in each other that no one else could. Sarah, the sanctuary director, whispered to herself. He's remembering love. Rex sat down, his breathing steady, his gaze soft. Lily smiled through tears. I think we're going to be friends, she said. And for the first time in years, Rex believed her. The sanctuary had fallen silent. Every volunteer, every meowing cat, and all quiet now. It was as if the world had paused to witness what was happening. Lily sat still, her wheelchair inches from Rex's enclosure, her small hand resting against the cold metal bars. On the other side, the once feared feral cat had lowered his head, pressing his muzzle gently against her palm. His eyes, once filled with fire and fear, now glimmered with something long forgotten. Peace. Emma stood frozen. She didn't even realize she was holding her breath. Oh my God! So sure, she whispered. He's letting her touch him. Mia's voice trembled. No one's ever gotten that close before. Lily's lips curved into a tiny smile. See, Mom? She said softly. He's a good boy. Her words echoed through the hall like sunlight cutting through fog. Rex's ears perked up at the sound, and his tail moved once, then again, slow, hesitant, but real. The volunteers exchanged glances, some smiling through tears, others too stunned to speak. Then Lily did something no one expected. She unfastened her seatbelt and leaned forward, her hand slipping carefully through the gap between the bars. Hi, Rex, she whispered.
I'm Lily.
Emma gasped. Lily, don't. But before anyone could react, Rex did the unthinkable. He leaned forward too slowly, gently, and until his nose touched her fingertips. He sniffed once, then twice, and then nuzzled her hand. The entire sanctuary erupted in gasps. One volunteer covered her mouth. Another whispered, He's letting her. Lily giggled, her laughter ringing like bells in the quiet hall. It tickles, she said, her voice full of wonder. Rex let out a soft purr, almost like a sigh. His body relaxed completely, his eyes half closed as if savoring a moment he never thought he'd feel again. Tears streamed down Emma's cheeks. He trusts her, she murmured, barely able to believe it. Sarah, the sanctuary director, stepped forward slowly, shaking her head in awe. All this time, all he needed was kindness, she said softly. And it came from a little girl who can't even walk. Lily looked up, smiling through tears. Maybe he doesn't need to be fixed, she said. Maybe he just needed to be loved again. Rex gave a low, contented purr, and then, for the first time since he'd arrived at the sanctuary, he lay down fully, his head resting near the bars beside Lily's hand. It was the moment that stopped everyone, the moment when a child who had lost her strength gave it back to a cat who had lost his heart. Word spread quickly through the sanctuary. By afternoon, everyone had heard about the little girl in the wheelchair who had touched the untouchable cat. Even the sanctuary director, Sarah, couldn't stop replaying the security footage. Rex pressing his head against Lily's palm, eyes calm and trusting. It didn't make sense. For months, he'd rejected every human who came near him. But this time he'd chosen differently. The next morning, a black SUV pulled up outside the sanctuary. The door opened and a man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, with tired eyes and a rescue badge clipped to his belt. It was Mark Jensen, Rex's former handler. Sarah met him at the entrance, her voice cautious. "Handler Jensen, thank you for coming." He gave a small nod, his expression unreadable. "You said Rex made contact with someone." Sarah gestured for him to follow. As they walked down the corridor, the meowing cats quieted, as if even they sensed the gravity of his return. When they reached Rex's enclosure, Mark stopped. His eyes softened, his throat tightening. Rex looked up from where he lay, his ears twitching. For a moment, neither moved. Then, in a low, trembling voice, Mark said, "Hey, partner." Rex stood slowly, tail lowering, unsure. His gaze flicked between the man and the small figure in the wheelchair beside him. Lily smiled gently. "Hi," she said. "You're Rex's friend?" Mark turned to her, surprised. "You're the girl who touched him?" Lily nodded proudly. "He's not mean. He's just sad." Mark's heart ached at her words. "Yeah," he murmured, his voice breaking. "He's been sad for a long time." He crouched beside Rex's enclosure, his eyes distant. "You remember that last mission, boy?" he whispered. "That Allie? The little girl you tried to save?" His voice trailed off. "She didn't make it. You blamed yourself. I think you never forgave me for pulling you out." Lily's eyes widened. "He tried to save a girl." Mark nodded slowly. "She was about your age." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then Rex took a step closer, his nose brushing against the bars near Mark's hand. The man's eyes glistened. "You still remember, don't you?" he whispered. Lily looked at the two of them, the broken survivor and his wounded friend, and said, softly, "Maybe he just needed another little girl to show him it's okay to love again." Mark smiled faintly, tears escaping down his cheek. "Maybe you're right." As he watched Rex lay his head near Lily's chair again, something inside Mark healed, too. For the first time since that tragic night, both handler and cat found peace through the gentle courage of a child who refused to see a monster where only pain had lived. From that day forward, Lily and her mother began visiting the sanctuary every afternoon. Started with short visits, just 15 minutes at first, but soon those minutes stretched into hours. Every time Lily's wheelchair rolled through the door, Rex's ears perked up. His hisses, once filled with warning, had turned into soft meows of recognition. Sarah, the sanctuary director, would watch from her office window with tears in her eyes. "Look at him," she'd whisper to the staff. "It's like he waits for her." The other volunteers noticed, too. Rex no longer hissed at strangers or scratched at feeding time. He ate calmly. He even swished his tail when Lily's laughter echoed through the halls. The transformation was quiet, gradual, but it was real. Lily talked to him like she talked to a friend. She told him stories about her school, her dreams, her favorite cartoons. Sometimes she sang softly while painting pictures of cats with wings and bright halos. Rex would sit near the bars, his head tilted, listening like he understood every word. One rainy afternoon, when thunder rolled outside, Rex began pacing anxiously in his enclosure, memories flashing behind those dark eyes. But then Lily wheeled closer, her voice steady. "It's just the sky talking, boy," she said with a smile. "You're safe now." Her words calmed him instantly. He lay down, pressing his nose against the bars as if to say thank you. Emma wiped a tear from her cheek as she watched. Her daughter, who had spent years fearing her own weakness, was now comforting a creature once feared by everyone. Mark Jensen, Rex's former handler, visited often, too. He'd bring Rex's old rescue tag and sometimes toss a toy across the hallway, though Rex never pounced it until Lily giggled and said, "Go on, hero, you can do it." Then, and only then, would Rex nudge it back with his paw. Each visit chipped away at the walls built by pain, hers and his. Lily began smiling more, her laughter growing freer, louder. She even started joining her mother outside in the garden again, always talking about her friend at the sanctuary. The day Rex finally rested his head in her lap through the open gate, the entire sanctuary staff held their breath. There was no hiss, no hesitation, only quiet trust. Lily ran her small fingers through his fur, whispering, "You're not broken anymore, Rex." But what she didn't realize was that he wasn't the only one healing. Because in loving him, Lily had found her strength again. And in trusting her, Rex had found his reason to live. The bond between Lily and Rex grew stronger with every visit, like two pieces of a broken puzzle, finally finding their place. But no bond, not even the purest one, goes untested. It happened on a stormy afternoon. The sky outside was dark, wind rattling the sanctuary windows. Inside, most of the cats were restless, their meowing echoing through the corridors. Lily had just arrived with her mother and was wheeling down the hallway, humming softly. Rex's ears twitched at the sound. That familiar melody always calmed him. Sarah greeted them at the door. "He's been a little anxious today," she warned gently. "The thunder seems to remind him of things." Lily nodded bravely. "It's okay. I'll help him." As she rolled closer to his enclosure, another loud crack of thunder exploded outside, so sudden it made everyone jump. The sound echoed like chaos. Rex snapped upright, his eyes wide, body stiff. In an instant, the old memories flooded back, shouting voices, crashes, sirens. He let out a sharp hiss, teeth bared, pacing back and forth. His claws scraped the floor, the air filled with panic. "Get her back!" one volunteer shouted, reaching for Lily's chair. But before anyone could react, Lily raised her hand. Her voice trembled, but her eyes stayed on Rex. "No, he's scared, not angry." Emma's voice broke. "Lily, please." But Lily didn't move. She took a slow breath and spoke in a calm, steady tone. "Hey Rex, it's okay. You're safe. I'm here." Rex froze. His breathing was heavy, his tail tucked tight. But her voice reached through the storm inside his mind like sunlight cutting through dark clouds. He looked at her, trembling, his eyes full of confusion. Lily inched her wheelchair closer. "It's just thunder," she whispered. "It's loud, I know, but it can't hurt you anymore." She stretched out her small hand through the open gate. The staff gasped. This was the first time she had touched him without a barrier. For a long, fragile second, no one breathed. Then Rex slowly stepped forward, his head lowering until his muzzle pressed gently into her palm. The tension melted away. He let out a deep purr, his body relaxing completely. Lily smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "See, boy, you're brave." Just like before, the volunteers looked on in silence, realizing what they were witnessing. And not a miracle, but a memory being rewritten. Rex didn't just trust Lily. He trusted the world again because of her. And that day, the sanctuary learned something, too. Sometimes healing doesn't come from medicine or training. It comes from love that refuses to give up. A week after the storm, the sanctuary felt brighter, not just in the sunlight streaming through the dusty windows, but in spirit. Every morning when the volunteers opened the doors, Rex was already awake, sitting quietly and watching the entrance like he was waiting for someone. And every afternoon when that familiar little wheelchair rolled in, his tail would start swishing before anyone said a word. Sarah often smiled at the sight. "I think we found what heals him," she whispered to Emma one day. "Your daughter did what no handler could." Emma looked at Lily, who was sitting beside Rex's open enclosure, painting quietly on her lap while the cat rested beside her. "She's happier than I've seen her in years," Emma said softly. "He gives her something no medicine ever could." Mark Jensen had been visiting regularly, too. He often stood by the door, arms folded, watching the two of them together, the gentle girl and the broken hero. One afternoon he turned to Emma, his voice thoughtful. "He's ready," he said. "He trusts again. He's whole." Emma glanced at him. "What happens now?" Mark hesitated for a moment before replying. "He needs a home. Not just any home, her home." Emma froze. "Are you saying?" He nodded. "Rex has already chosen. And I think your daughter has too." The words hung in the air. Emma looked back at Lily. She was giggling as Rex nudged a small toy toward her with his nose. Her laughter was pure, the kind that reached the heart. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She replayed every moment. The accident, the hospital days, the loneliness that haunted her little girl, and now the joy that this cat had brought back into her life. By morning, the decision was made. She walked into the sanctuary with Lily by her side and found Sarah and Mark waiting. "I'd like to adopt him," Emma said softly. "I think he's already part of our family." Mark smiled, his eyes glistening. He's been waiting for those words. And when Rex walked out of that sanctuary beside Lily's wheelchair for the first time, tail swishing and hearts full, everyone watching knew it wasn't just a cat being adopted that day. It was two souls finally finding home. The day Rex left the sanctuary felt like the beginning of spring after a long, hard winter. The volunteers lined up by the door, smiling through tears as they watched him walk out, head high, tail swishing slowly, staying close to Lily's wheelchair. The sun spilled across his fur, making it glisten like silk. For the first time in years, Rex wasn't walking into uncertainty. He was walking home. Emma opened the gate to their little white house with trembling hands. "Welcome home, Rex," she said softly. Lily clapped her hands, her laughter filling the air. "Come on, boy. I'll show you everything." The first thing Rex did was explore every corner, sniffing, circling, then finally curling up beside Lily's wheelchair like a guardian taking post. When Emma brought out his new bed, he ignored it and instead lay on the rug near Lily's chair, refusing to leave her side. Days passed and the rhythm of the house began to change. Mornings were no longer quiet. There was purring, laughter, the sound of paws on the wooden floor. Lily would roll into the kitchen and feed Rex his breakfast, always saying, "Heroes eat first." Sometimes she'd drop bits of food and he'd gently pick them up, waiting patiently until she finished eating, too. Other times, when she tried to reach for something that fell, Rex would nudge it toward her with his nose, earning himself a proud giggle and a pat on the head. He followed her everywhere, to her therapy sessions, to the garden, even when she painted. If she dropped a brush, he'd sit and stare at it until she noticed, like a silent assistant who never needed thanks. One evening, Emma looked out the window and froze. Lily was outside her wheelchair, parked under the golden light of sunset, with Rex sitting beside her. She was reading out loud from her storybook, her small voice soft and full of emotion. Rex's head was resting on her lap, eyes half closed, completely at peace. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. She whispered, "You gave her life back, old boy." Inside the house, a framed photo of Rex in his rescue vest sat beside a new one. Lily and Rex together, smiling under the same sunlight. Two heroes from different worlds, both scarred, both healing. That night, as the family drifted to sleep, Rex lay by Lily's bed, eyes open, ears alert. And when she whispered, "Good night, my brave boy," his tail thumped softly against the floor. For the first time in years, both of them slept without fear. It was a quiet Saturday morning, the kind that felt too peaceful to be real. The sun had just started to climb above the rooftops, painting the Parker home in soft gold. Lily sat in her wheelchair near the living room window, brushing Rex's fur while humming a little tune. The Maine Coon cat lay beside her, eyes half closed, enjoying every stroke. Emma was in the kitchen making pancakes, smiling to herself as she listened to her daughter's laughter drift through the air. For months now, their home had been filled with something it hadn't known in years. Joy, but peace, as it often does, has a way of testing those who find it. It started with the faint smell of smoke. At first, Emma thought it was the stove, but when she turned off the burner, the smell only grew stronger. Then came the sound where a faint crackle followed by a soft, eerie hiss. Her heart skipped. She turned toward the hallway and froze. Smoke was curling from under the door near the laundry room. "Lily!" she screamed, rushing forward. "Stay where you are." But before she could reach her, a burst of fire erupted from the electrical socket, filling the hallway with thick black smoke. The alarms blared. The air turned hot and heavy. Emma coughed violently, eyes watering as she tried to push through. Lily in the living room. Rex's ears shot up. He meowed sharply once, twice, then looked toward the flames. Lily's face went pale. "Mom!" she whispered. She tried to move her wheelchair, but it caught on the edge of the rug. She pushed harder. Nothing. The smoke thickened, filling the room. Rex hissed low, pacing frantically. Then, without hesitation, he lunged at the burning hallway, meowing furiously. "Rex, no!" Lily cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. But he didn't stop. He darted into the smoke, vanishing into the haze. Seconds felt like forever. Lily sobbed, coughing, "Please come back, please." Then, through the swirling smoke, a shape emerged. Rex, his fur singed, eyes burning with determination. He gripped the edge of Lily's wheelchair with his jaws and pulled with all his strength. Inch by inch, he dragged her toward the front door. Emma burst through the smoke from the other side, falling to her knees. "Rex, Lily," she cried. Together, she and the cat pushed and pulled until they crashed through the front door and into the open air. The moment they hit the grass, Rex collapsed beside Lily, panting hard, his chest rising and falling in ragged rhythm. Emma wrapped her arms around both of them, trembling, sobbing. The house behind them burned, but the family was safe. And the hero, once feared and forgotten, had saved his girl once again. The fire trucks arrived within minutes, sirens echoing through the neighborhood. Neighbors gathered on the street, watching as firefighters battled the flames devouring the Parker home. Emma sat on the curb, holding Lily close, tears streaking down her soot-covered face. Rex lay beside them, his fur scorched, chest heaving. Yet his eyes never left the little girl he had saved. "Stay with me, boy," Lily whispered, resting her trembling hand on his head. "You're my hero." Paramedics rushed forward, checking them both. One firefighter knelt beside Rex, stunned. "Is that the cat who pulled her out?" Emma nodded weakly. "He wouldn't leave her. Not for a second." The man shook his head in disbelief. "He's a miracle." A neighbor had captured the entire rescue on her phone. The moment Rex dragged Lily through the smoke, the flames bursting behind them, the look of pure determination in his eyes. By nightfall, the video was everywhere. Within hours, Hero Cat Rex was trending worldwide. News anchors replayed the footage, voices trembling with emotion. A retired feral cat turned family companion risked his life to save a paralyzed little girl, one reporter said. Viewers are calling him the Angel Cat. Messages flooded in. Letters, donations, even gifts for Rex from across the globe. Children drew pictures of him wearing a cape. Rescuers sent him their badges. One message stood out most, and from the local rescue chief. "Once a hero, always a hero. Rex has earned his badge back." Days later, the sanctuary where Rex had once lived received more visitors than ever before. People lined up not to see the aggressive cat they once feared, but to meet the living legend who had proven that love could rewrite any story. As for Lily, she couldn't stop smiling. "He didn't just save me," she told the reporters softly. "He saved himself, too." When they asked Emma how she felt, she looked at her daughter and the scarred, loyal cat resting beside her and said, "Rex didn't just rescue my child from the fire. He brought light back into all our lives." And from that day on, the world didn't see Rex as a retired feline anymore. They saw him as a symbol of what love can heal. The weeks that followed felt like a new dawn for the Parker family and for Rex. Though the fire had taken their home, it couldn't take what truly mattered. The hospital staff called Rex a miracle cat. The doctor said he should have collapsed from smoke inhalation, but somehow he had stayed conscious long enough to save Lily. Pure instinct, one medic said, but those who knew better called it something else. Love. When Lily was discharged, the entire town gathered outside to welcome her and Rex home. Firefighters, police officers, and even the volunteers from Haven's Hope Sanctuary were there, clapping as she wheeled down the ramp with Rex trotting proudly beside her, bandaged paw and all. Mark Jensen stood in uniform, holding something small in his hand. Rex's old rescue badge polished until it shone. He knelt before the cat, tears glistening in his eyes. "You've always been my hero," he said softly, clipping the badge to Rex's new collar. "But today you've become everyone's." Rex nuzzled his hand gently, tail thumping against the pavement. The crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed. But in that moment, for Lily, there was no noise, just the warm sunlight, the steady heartbeat of her cat beside her, and the overwhelming feeling that her world was finally whole again. Over the next few months, something else began to change. Lily's doctors noticed new movement in her legs. "It's impossible," they said. But day by day, her strength returned. She told everyone it was because of Rex. "He believes I can," she'd say with a grin. "So I have to try." And one golden afternoon, in front of her therapist, her mother, and Rex, Lily took her first step. The room fell silent, then filled with tears and laughter. Rex meowed once sharply, as if cheering her on. Emma dropped to her knees, sobbing. "You did it, sweetheart. You really did it." Lily reached down, petting her loyal friend. "No, Mom," she whispered, smiling through tears. "We did it." That night, as the sun dipped low and painted the world in orange and gold, Rex lay at Lily's feet, eyes half closed, the badge glinting faintly on his collar. Mark Jensen stood at the doorway, watching quietly. "You saved her life," he murmured. Emma smiled, and she saved his. As the camera fades, Lily's voice echoes softly. "Sometimes angels don't have wings.